I always thought I knew who I was. At 22, living in the cozy, sunlit apartment my mother had insisted I keep, I believed my life was ordinary. I went to college, worked part-time at a local bookstore and had a quiet relationship with Isabella, my girlfriend. She was sweet, caring and a little mysterious, which I sometimes found both comforting and frustrating. Yet beneath the calm surface of my daily routine, I harbored a secret, a fascination I never fully admitted to anyone. It wasn't just curiosity. It was something deeper, something that stirred every time I caught glimpses of femininity in the world around me. I loved the softness of skirts, the shimmer of makeup under gentle lighting, the elegance of a high heel clicking against the floor. But I had never allowed myself to indulge openly. I told myself it was a private indulgence, a harmless escape from the monotony of my life, until the day Mom walked into my room and changed everything. My name is James, and until recently, I had lived a life firmly in the realm of the ordinary. My friends knew me as calm, responsible, and a little reserved. But no one knew about the secret drawer in my dresser filled with delicate tights, soft blouses, and carefully folded skirts. Each piece was a tiny thrill, a private indulgence that made my heart race with a mix of excitement and guilt. Mom always seemed to sense more than she let on. She was warm, affectionate, and oddly perceptive. She noticed the way my eyes lingered on fashion magazines, the slight hesitation when I passed the women's clothing section in the mall. And one evening after a quiet dinner, she had said something that would change my life forever. "James, sometimes it's better to be a good girl." First I thought it was a joke. I laughed it off, but the twinkle in her eyes told me it wasn't. There was intention in her voice, something commanding yet tender. She didn't leave room for argument, only gentle insistence. Our apartment had always felt safe, a cocoon of familiar smells, soft lighting, and quiet corners where I could lose myself in books or music. But that evening the air felt charged. Mom's words lingered in the room like a secret promise. It was subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but I could feel a shift in the space around me. The familiar became tinged with tension, curiosity, and a strange, thrilling uncertainty. Isabella's visits added another layer. She was kind and playful, always teasing me gently about my meticulous habits, but she never knew about my secret. I often worried that if she saw me dressed in feminine clothes, fully embracing that part of myself, she might react differently. What if she laughed? What if she judged me? Or worse, what if she loved it too much and wanted to push me further? Isabella was unaware of the growing tension within me. Our relationship had always been affectionate and sweet, but with Mom's subtle interventions, a new dimension of secrecy and anticipation had crept in. I found myself imagining her reactions as I tried on my clothes in the privacy of my room, imagining her delight, surprise, or perhaps confusion. Mom had suggested almost casually that I explore the idea of being a good girl in a more concrete way. At first I resisted. The idea of transforming, even just temporarily, into someone so different from the life I knew was intimidating. But the excitement, the forbidden thrill, was undeniable. My reflection in the mirror started to feel like someone I was only beginning to meet. A softer, more vulnerable version of myself that was both terrifying and intoxicating. The first night Mom left me alone in the apartment, she handed me a carefully wrapped package. Inside were delicate dresses, stockings, and a note written in her elegant handwriting. "Be a good girl, James, explore her. She's part of you now." My hands shook as I unpacked the garments. Each piece felt like a key to a door I had never dared open. As I slipped into the first dress, I felt a shiver of both fear and exhilaration. The fabric hugged me in ways I had never imagined, reshaping not just my body but my perception of myself. I looked in the mirror and for the first time I didn't see James the man. I saw her, a girl whose existence had quietly been waiting within me all along. The thrill was overwhelming. I touched the soft fabric, ran my fingers over the delicate lace, and felt my pulse quicken. Was this really me? Could I embrace this identity fully? Or was this just the beginning of a journey from which I might never return? As I stood there looking at the reflection in the mirror, the world seemed to shift. The room that had always been familiar now felt like a stage, with every shadow and corner holding the potential for revelation or danger. I realized that with every step I took down this path, I was stepping further into a life that would challenge everything I thought I knew about myself. Mom's words echoed in my mind, "Be a good girl." It was not a request. It was a gentle command, A subtle initiation into a new reality where the lines between past and present, boy and girl, secrecy and exposure, blurred into a thrilling, frightening, and unforgettable experience. And in that moment, standing in the soft glow of the apartment, I realized I was no longer certain I even remembered being a boy. The days after Mom's package arrived were a whirlwind of anticipation and secret indulgence. Every moment alone in the apartment became a test of self-control, a playground for exploration. I would start my mornings with the usual routine: coffee, checking emails, scrolling through the bookstore's schedule, but my mind constantly wandered back to the delicate garments folded neatly in my drawer. Each time I opened it, I felt like I was stepping into a forbidden world, and yet the thrill was irresistible. It wasn't easy. There was a gnawing anxiety that ran beneath every glance in the mirror. Was I losing myself? Would Isabella ever see me the same way? Was Mom's insistence a loving nudge or something more controlling? I remember sitting on my bed one afternoon, the soft fabric of a pastel blouse slipping through my fingers. My reflection stared back at me and I felt a pang of shame mixed with longing. Who am I really? I whispered to myself. The girl in the mirror seemed to smile back, confident and serene, yet I felt exposed and vulnerable at the same time. Every decision felt like a tightrope walk. Should I explore more boldly, or retreat and preserve the remnants of my old identity? Mom's words haunted me, echoing through my mind, "Be a good girl." There was a weight to them, gentle yet firm, that made it impossible to ignore. The first full transformation began with a simple dress, a soft sky blue piece that clung gently to my body. I took my time, savoring the sensation of the fabric sliding over my skin. The stockings were next, delicate and silky, making every movement feel new and thrilling. Finally, the heels. Modest, elegant, but challenging enough to make me conscious of every step. Then came the makeup. I had always admired it from a distance, fascinated by the skill required to turn a bare face into something expressive and beautiful. Mom had included a beginner's kit, and I hesitated at first, unsure if I could replicate the flawless look I imagined. My hands shook as I applied foundation, eyeshadow, and a touch of blush. When I finally looked into the mirror, the reflection was breathtaking. Not just in appearance but in the realization that this could be me, fully and completely. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. Every time I caught my reflection, a rush of adrenaline mixed with fear coursed through me. I could almost hear Isabella's voice in my head, teasing or admiring, or maybe judging. With every dress and every brushstroke, I felt a subtle shift inside. My movements became more fluid, my posture more graceful. There was a power in embracing this new persona, a sense of freedom I had never known. Yet beneath that, a tiny voice of doubt whispered relentlessly. What would happen if Mom, Isabella, or anyone else discovered me like this? I remember one evening sitting on the living room floor in a soft lavender dress, the city lights casting patterns on the walls. I touched the fabric gently, feeling the duality of my existence. Part James, part the girl I was becoming. The thrill of transformation was intoxicating, but the fear of being exposed lingered like a shadow. Every sound outside the apartment, every unexpected knock on the door made my heart race. The tension escalated when Isabella called unexpectedly one night. My heart jumped. I had just finished a full transformation, hair curled, makeup perfect, heels on, and wasn't sure I could return to my old self in time. I stammered through the conversation, pretending to be casual, all the while keeping one eye on the door. When she mentioned dropping by, my pulse skyrocketed. I had less than an hour to decide: hide the evidence, strip down, and hope she never suspected, or risk being seen as the person I was discovering in the mirror. Every second felt like an eternity. I opted for the risk. There was a thrill in the possibility of discovery, a dangerous excitement that made my pulse drum in my ears. I practiced my voice, my gestures, and my expressions in the mirror, trying to balance confidence with subtlety. The more I embraced this version of myself, the harder it became to remember the life I had known before. Even small tasks, pouring coffee, walking to the mailbox, felt different now, influenced by the rhythm and grace I had adopted. The girl in the mirror wasn't just a costume. She was alive, vibrant, and seductive. Mom's influence was ever-present, gentle but persistent. She never forced, never demanded. Instead, she nudged, guided, and encouraged me to explore fully. Her subtle comments, small gifts, and unwavering attention made it clear. This was my new reality. and the more I resisted, the more I found myself drawn in. As the days went on, I found myself questioning morality and identity. Was this selfish indulgence or an honest expression of who I had always been? How would Isabella react if she discovered the truth? And most importantly, could I ever go back to the life I had known? I began experimenting with small outings in disguise. Short walks, errands, visiting the bookstore. Each excursion was a test of courage and skill. Every glance from a stranger, every curious smile, heightened the tension and exhilaration. The stakes were real. One slip, one unexpected encounter, and everything could unravel. The weeks following my initial transformations had blurred the lines of my identity completely. Every day I found myself sinking deeper into this new existence, and every interaction became a test of balance between James, the person I had always known, and the girl I was becoming. It started subtly. A slip of the heel, a missed word in conversation, a glance that lingered too long in the mirror. But soon the tension escalated and the risk of exposure became unavoidable. It all came to a head one rainy evening. Mom had left early for an appointment, and Isabella had unexpectedly decided to surprise me with a visit. I had been fully transformed, wearing a fitted dress that hugged my figure, heels that made every step precise, and makeup that accentuated my delicate features. The doorbell rang just as I was adjusting a strand of hair in the mirror. My heart skipped. This was it, the ultimate test. My first instinct was to hide, but something inside me urged me to face the moment fully. I opened the door, smiling, praying that my confidence could carry me through. Isabella's eyes widened in surprise, but not the shock I had feared. Instead, there was a curious, almost playful glint. "Well, James," she said softly. "You look amazing." But the calm shattered almost immediately. From behind her, I heard a voice I hadn't anticipated. Mom's. She had returned early, her eyes scanning the room like a hawk. The air thickened with tension as both of their gazes met mine. I felt every muscle in my body tighten. My mind raced, trying to decide the best course of action. Do I explain, lie, or stay silent? The girl in the mirror felt alive, almost daring me to embrace her fully, while James's rational side screamed for concealment. Isabella stepped closer, brushing her hand lightly against mine. "Are you okay?" she asked, concern mixed with curiosity. My pulse pounded in my ears. One wrong move and everything, the secret, my identity, the trust, could crumble. Mom's smile was enigmatic, almost predatory. She didn't say a word, but the intensity of her gaze made it clear. She had orchestrated this moment perfectly. Every gift, every suggestion, every subtle nudge had led to this, the ultimate confrontation between James and the girl I had become. The tension reached a fever pitch when Mom moved closer, her fingers brushing against the hem of my dress almost casually. "You've embraced her well," she murmured. "But are you ready to fully be a good girl?" I stumbled, unsure whether to respond. My mind flashed through weeks of secret indulgence, the thrill of transformation, the risk of discovery, and the fear of judgment. Isabella's eyes never left mine, and I realized that this was not just about Mom's influence. It was about whether I could accept myself completely. Then a sudden knock on the door startled all of us. A neighbor looking for assistance with a minor emergency had arrived. Panic surged through me. I was still in full transformation, every inch of my identity exposed. My hands shook, my voice faltered, and my carefully maintained composure threatened to collapse. In the chaos, a heel slipped from my foot, clattering against the wooden floor. It was a symbolic fracture. The barrier between James and the girl I had become was no longer solid. The mirror reflected both versions of myself, the boy who had lived quietly and the girl who had emerged under Mom's guidance. Isabella moved to steady me, her touch grounding yet electrifying. Mom watched silently, almost satisfied as the weight of my dual existence pressed down on me. I realized in that moment that I couldn't return to the life I had known. The transformation was no longer temporary, it had reshaped my entire identity. The room was heavy with tension, fear, and exhilaration. Every heartbeat was amplified, every glance loaded with meaning. I was caught between worlds, suspended in a moment where past and present, secrecy and revelation, merged into a thrilling, terrifying reality. Isabella's voice broke through the storm. "James, I don't know what to call you, but I like her. I like you." Her words were a lifeline, a validation of the person I had become. Relief surged through me, mingled with guilt and fear as I realized how much I had longed to be seen, understood, and accepted. Mom's smile widened and she finally spoke, her tone calm but commanding. Then it settled. She is a part of you now and you will be a good girl. Fully. As the evening progressed, the rain tapping against the windows, the city lights reflecting in the puddles outside, I felt a mix of liberation and dread. I had survived the ultimate confrontation, yet the journey was far from over. Would I truly be able to navigate this new identity with Isabella's acceptance and Mom's guidance? Could I balance the thrill of transformation with the risks of exposure? And most importantly, what surprises awaited me in the days to come? The room was silent, yet charged, the air thick with anticipation. My reflection in the mirror no longer just showed the girl I had become. It hinted at the mysteries and challenges still ahead, teasing me with the promise of excitement, fear, and discovery. The apartment was quiet, but the silence was heavy with unspoken words and unresolved tension. Rain still drummed gently against the windows, casting rippling reflections across the floor. I stood frozen in front of the mirror, the girl I had become staring back at me, flawless in appearance yet shaking inside. Isabella and Mom had left moments ago, or so I thought. Their sudden exit was abrupt, but the memory of their gazes lingered. Mom's knowing smile, Isabella's mixture of curiosity and acceptance. It all burned into my mind, making me realize just how far I had crossed the line from James to her. The thrill of acceptance from Isabella was intoxicating, yet a creeping doubt gnawed at me. Could I maintain this balance? Could I continue to live fully as her without someone else discovering my secret? Every sound, the dripping rain, the soft hum of the refrigerator, seemed amplified, a reminder that exposure was always possible. I moved toward the window, peering out at the city below. The world seemed larger now, more daunting and yet exhilarating. I felt the stirrings of confidence that came with embracing my new identity, but also the fragility of it, the delicate tightrope I was walking. I turned back to the mirror, touching my lips lightly, feeling the weight of the lipstick, the perfection of the curl in my hair, the smoothness of my skin. A soft sigh escaped me, a mixture of relief, longing, and fear. The reflection wasn't just of a girl. It was of a new life, one I wasn't sure I could fully control. Suddenly, a faint shadow flickered behind me in the mirror's reflection. My heart jumped. I spun around, but no one was there. Only the faint silhouette of my own form in the dim light. Yet the sensation lingered as if someone, or something, was watching, waiting for the right moment to challenge the fragile balance I had found. On the floor, one of my heels had slipped slightly, tilted precariously. It was a small, almost mundane detail, but it felt symbolic. A reminder that even the smallest misstep could unravel everything. The delicate balance between James and the girl I had become was a fragile line, and every choice, every movement mattered. I bent down to adjust it, my fingers trembling. As I straightened the heel, I caught a glimpse of the mirror again, and for a fleeting moment, I swore I saw another pair of eyes, watching me from somewhere beyond the reflection. My breath hitched and I felt a shiver run down my spine. I sank onto the couch, clutching a soft throw blanket around me. My mind raced, replaying the events of the evening. The confrontations, the acceptance, the thrill, the fear. Every emotion was magnified. The exhilaration of transformation, the vulnerability of exposure, and the intoxicating sensation of finally being seen for who I truly was. Yet the tension remained unresolved. Mom's influence, Isabella's curiosity, the potential for someone else discovering me, it all hovered in the air like an unseen presence, reminding me that this was far from over. I looked directly into the mirror, my reflection staring back with the same mixture of vulnerability and confidence. I whispered softly to myself, almost as if daring fate, "Who am I now, really?" The question lingered in the air, unanswered. Outside, the rain continued to fall, each drop a ticking clock counting down to the next challenge, the next test of identity, and the next moment of suspense. And then, the sound of a key in the lock. Someone was coming. My heart skipped, my pulse raced. Would it be Isabella? Or someone entirely unexpected? I froze, unable to move, caught between exhilaration and fear. The screen would fade to black here, leaving the audience in suspense, hearts pounding, minds racing with questions. Who is at the door? Has James's secret been fully discovered? What will happen to the delicate balance between James and her new identity? Will she embrace this life completely, or will the past pull her back? The story ends on this unresolved, thrilling note, leaving viewers eager to speculate and comment, setting the stage perfectly for the next episode.